What is up guys, Stark here. In today's character spotlight, I am taking a look at the first character in the summer batch, and that is going to be Tamamo no Mai. So the summer batch units are broken up into two different parts, and she is going to be the 5-star of the first part, and her class will change from a caster to a lancer, and at level 90 her stats will be 15,147 HP and 10,726 attack. So this will rank her 6th overall in HP and 29th overall in attack, giving her some of the best stats in the game. And if you do decide to max her out, she will end up with 18,594 HP and 13,741 attack. So now for her extra stats, she has a 91 star weight, 12.2 star gain, and a 1.05 Noble Phantasm gain on attack, and 4% on the defense. So overall, she's going to have some really solid Noble Phantasm generation, and she will be able to produce a decent amount of stars with that 12.2% for her star gain. Moving on here to her skills, the first one is going to be the Beach Flower EX, which will increase the party's attack for 3 turns, as well as increase the critical star generation rate of all of your male allies for 3 turns. So this is a pretty good skill overall. It's pretty much the common skill shared throughout most of the summer units, and it is a pretty solid skill, having a 20% increase to attack at max level, and then if you are partying with male characters, you'll also get that bonus of critical star generation going to 42% at level 10. It does have a 5-turn charge time at max level, so you will be able to recycle this pretty often, and there won't be too much on the downtime, only 2 turns in between the skill end and the skill cooldown. So for her next skill is going to be the Midsummer Curse A. So it's got quite a few effects here. So first up, it's going to charm one enemy for 1 turn, and then it will reduce that enemy's defense for 3 turns, as well as apply curse to that enemy for 5 turns. However, it will also increase that enemy's Noble Phantasm gauge by 1. So this is kind of a theme with her skills. She has a really good set of effects, but then it has some sort of negative effect on top of that to kind of balance it out. And in this instance, it's going to increase that enemy's gauge by 1. So essentially, you're just going to stun the enemy, and then they'll get the charge back out of it, which honestly, now it's not really like the best thing in the world, but if you look at it from this perspective, it might not be that bad. Say the enemy is going to attack you, and they'll get their Noble Phantasm charge anyway, so at least if you're going to stun them, yeah, they get the charge, but they would have gotten that charge anyway, and it does sit on a 7-turn charge time, so it is a little bit higher on that end. Probably just because of the curse duration. So that's kind of unfortunate, but it also does stun the enemy or charm them, so you can benefit from that. You just have to use it in the right situations. Obviously you're not going to use it when the enemy has 1 charge left on a Noble Phantasm. You're going to have to wait for that, but you could also go ahead and use it when they have their Noble Phantasm gauge filled, and then that, the increase to the gauge won't really matter, and you still get the charm out of it. So you just have to be careful when you use the skill. You can't just use it whenever you want, but overall it is a very good skill. And then for her third and final skill is going to be the Goddess Morph B. Now this thing has a ton of different effects, so I had to kind of split it up into 2 different graphics, but I'm just going to go ahead and run through all of them right now. So it will grant her invincibility for 1 turn. It will increase her own critical damage, critical star generation, Noble Phantasm generation, debuff resistance, and healing for 1 turn. And then it will also stun herself for 1 turn. So, it's got a whole bunch of really good effects, but then, she gets hit with that stun at the end, which, that really is a big drawback to this skill, but there are ways around that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video, but it does give you a ton of good things. Now, all of the bonuses will go from 30 to 50% once you max it out, and that's a pretty good, increase for all of those things. You have critical damage, star generation, NP generation. There's just so much, I already said them, but you get a lot out of this skill. It's on a 6-turn charge time at max level, so it's really good. If you have someone in there that can remove the stun, like Martha or Sanzang, then you don't have to worry about it, and this skill becomes absolutely fantastic. And yeah, overall, you also get that invincibility for 1 turn, so you're not going to be taking any damage, as well as getting all those buffs. So overall, it is a very good skill. It just has to have that one little, it's not really a little, it's a pretty big drawback to it. The other drawback really is that everything only lasts for 1 turn. None of the effects last for multiple turns, which does kind of suck, but at the same time, you're stunning yourself, so even if they did last for multiple turns, you wouldn't be able to make use of it unless you were able to get rid of that stun somehow. So now moving on to her passives, she does have 3 of them. The first one is going to be the Territory Creation A, which will increase her arts card effectiveness by 10%. The second one is going to be Riding A, which will increase her quick card effectiveness by 10%. And the third and final one is going to be Divinity A++, which will increase her own damage by 230. So now moving on to her Ascension. For her first Ascension, she's going to need 5 Lancer pieces and 100,000 Quantum pieces. For her second Ascension, she's going to need 12 Lancer pieces, 6 Phoenix Feathers, and 300,000 Quantum pieces. For her third Ascension, she's going to need 5 Lancer Monuments, 12 Siege of Yggdrasil, 3 War Horses Younghorn, and 1 million Quantum pieces. And then for her fourth and final Ascension, she's going to need 12 Lancer Monuments, 6 War Horses Younghorn, 12 Seashells, and 3 million Quantum pieces. And the shells, they are a item that was introduced into the summer event, and pretty much all of the summer characters will need that item in some capacity. So definitely try and get as many as you can. And then for her skill enhancements, to max out her skills from 1 to 10, you are going to need 17 Gems of Lancer, 17 Magic Gems of Lancer, 17 Secret Gems of Lancer, 18 Seas of Yggdrasil, 12 Phoenix Feathers, 15 Claws of Chaos, 10 Heart of the Foreign Gods, 1 Crystallized Lore, and 54,400,000 Quantum pieces. So now let's go ahead and take a look at her command card deck and her Noble Phantasm. First up, for her command cards, she's going to have 2 Quick, 1 Arts, 2 Busters, and she has really good hit counts for all of them, or well, for most of them anyway. For her Quick cards, she's going to have 4 hits. For the Arts cards, she will have only 2 hits, but for her Buster cards, she will also have 3 hits, and then on the extra attack, she will have 4 hits. So combo that with her Noble Phantasm generation, and she's going to be able to fill her Noble Phantasm gauge up pretty fast. And then for her Noble Phantasm, it's going to be a Buster card that will deal damage to one enemy, as well as deal extra damage to male enemies on the overcharge. So this does have 4 hits on the Noble Phantasm, and this will do a ton of damage, especially if you're going against a male enemy. It ranks one of the highest if you are going against males, and you just do a ton of damage. She's definitely going to be very useful going against male enemies. Even if you aren't going against a male enemy though, it is one of the highest damaging Noble Phantasms for single targets for the Lancer class. So you're still going to benefit even if you aren't going against males. It's going to be doing a lot of damage. And overall, it's just a very good Noble Phantasm to have. So now let's move on and talk about some of the craft essences you can use on this character. And the first one is going to be her own personal craft essence for level 10 Bond, and that is going to be the Sunset Beach. So while equipped, this will increase quick and buster card effectiveness of all your allies by 10%. So this is really nice because she does focus on having quick cards and buster cards in her deck. So if you have a combination of those characters on your team, you'll definitely benefit from using this craft essence. Another good one to use is going to be the Halloween Princess, which will increase her Noble Phantasm strength by 15%, as well as start the battle with 30% of the gauge filled. So we just talked about how powerful her Noble Phantasm is, so being able to throw this on to have a little bit bonus damage on top of that is going to be really good, as well as starting her off with 30% of the gauge filled. That's really nice. She doesn't need too much support to get the gauge filled. She has really high Noble Phantasm generation on her own, so she shouldn't have too much trouble doing that. So just having that 30% bonus to start is just going to make it that much easier to get the gauge filled. Another good craft essence to use is going to be the After Party Order. Now, this one, if you have Sunset Beach, you would rather use that as opposed to using this one, but it does take a while to get your bond maxed out. So in the meantime, you can go ahead and use this craft essence to get the quick and buster card effectiveness increase for herself. And you could also just go ahead and use the limited 0 over for the overall increase to buster card effectiveness by 25%. So now let's go ahead and talk about some of the servants you can use with this character. And the first one is going to be Martha. So Martha is a fantastic servant to use, mainly because of the fact that she can remove debuffs. And you can combo that with Tamamo's third skill, where she will stun herself. You can use Martha to get rid of that, as well as heal her. So overall, you're pretty much just using her for that combination, but it is a very good combination to use. And she also does have a bunch of defense down skills, so you can combo that in with Tamamo's high damage, and you'll be doing more damage because of that. She does have 2 buster cards, so you could do buster chains, and she does also have 3 arts cards in her deck, which will add in some possibilities of having arts chains to help your Noble Phantasm generation go a little bit faster. Next up is going to be Sanzang, and she's there pretty much for the same reason as Martha. just be able to remove the debuffs of Tamamo's third skill. You know, having the ability to remove that stun from her makes that skill so much better, and really it's just too tough to pass up if you have the options available to you. She also does have a very powerful single target Noble Phantasm as well, with 2 Buster cards in the deck, so you can combo them together to take out potentially the boss wave with your Noble Phantasms. Next up on the list is going to be Orion. She's not able to remove the debuffs or anything like that, but she is there primarily because she is also a male killer, so if you have them together in the same team going against males, then you're going to be able to nuke them pretty hard. Orion has I believe the highest damaging output for Noble Phantasms against male in the game, so if you are doing a male oriented team like that, then you definitely want to include Orion on the team. And then finally is going to be Elizabeth Bathory. So she, right now in the game, she's not really going to be that good of a servant to combo with, but she will have a rank up quest coming that will allow her to also increase the attack of all females while in the field. So obviously that makes, you know, comboing her with other females really good. She'll have a bonus to all allies for the attack on her first skill, and then the extra damage for female allies. So you're going to be getting a huge increase to your attack, and pretty much anytime you use a female servant, she's going to be a decent option to use once she gets that rank up quest. But I did think it was a pretty good point to point out, so I decided to put it in. I don't usually like talking about things that aren't currently available on Global, but since the servant is actually in the game, I figured I'd just give a little heads up to that in case you do have Tamamo and you do want to potentially level up servants for the future to make teams with her. So now moving on to the star rankings. First up is going to be her stats, and she will get 5 stars easily in stats. She's actually pushing like 6 stars, but it is a 5-star ranking, so 5 is the most she can get. For her skills, she is going to get 4 stars in skills. I would love to have given her a 4.5 in skills, but 2 of her skills have some pretty serious consequences, and yeah, they might be easy to deal with, but the fact that they have them, I really can't overlook that, so I do have to take away half a point there. 4 stars though is still pretty good ranking. Her third skill does have a ton of good effects you can use, and overall it's just, she has a very good kit of skills. For her Noble Phantasm, she's also going to get 4 stars. She does a really good amount of damage as a single target damage dealer, especially going against male enemies, which there are a lot of them in the game, especially in events. So you're going to be doing a ton of damage with her. And now, yeah, it is just a damage dealing Noble Phantasm, but it's going to do a ton of damage. It is one of the stronger ones for Lancers, and if you are going against males, it is definitely one of the stronger Noble Phantasms in the game. So I think 4 stars is pretty fair for that. For her survivability, she is also getting 4 stars. She has, as you guys can see there, some of the highest HP in the game, as well as having a skill that will grant her complete invincibility for 1 turn. That can definitely be very, very beneficial to her. You know, you can just use that on a Noble Phantasm turn, and then you can just not worry about needing any other sort of support in order to survive that Noble Phantasm. She also does have that Charm skill, which doesn't like directly increase her survivability, but you know, if the enemy is stunned and can't attack, then by default she can't die. It is kind of built in there to help her survive a little bit longer. As for her versatility, she's only getting 3.5 stars for this. Because both of her skills have serious drawbacks, you either have to bring someone in that can get rid of it, like say for like Martha or Sanzang for her third skill, or you're just going to have to deal with it and just give that enemy a Noble Phantasm charge and just kind of work around it. So she does kind of lose a few points there because of that. But overall though, she is a very solid servant. She's very effective against males, especially with her Noble Phantasm, so she can find her way into a lot of different teams. It's just that you kind of have to have some sort of support or countermeasure for her second and third skill in order to use her to the best of her abilities. So overall, that will give her a 4.1 out of 5. She is a very good servant. She is a limited edition servant for the summer banner, so if you do want her, definitely try and pull for her in the banner. But that's going to wrap up this video, guys. I will be here with Tamamo's Noble Phantasm, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Abacciauru!